All right. Well, hello, everyone. You are watching or listening to Seen and Known with Alicia Jones. I am your host, Alicia, and I'm so excited about today's episode. This is season one, episode four, Healing in Love. And so we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is love. So, the purpose of this episode is to help our listeners understand what healthy readiness for love looks like, especially after trauma, betrayal, or disappointment, and to reframe dating as healing and an intentional process rather than doing something for performance or because of pressure. And so I'm really excited to welcome everybody's favorite matchmaker, Alex Smith, here from Houston, Texas. All right.
Really?
and and he's going to be talking about love today. So, welcome, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. I'm happy to be here. Really appreciate and love what you're building. You kind of walked me through some of the episodes you've already recorded and are scheduled to drop. And um, I mean, all of those are very interesting, and I can't wait to listen and watch because I feel like they're going to be super insightful with just, the more that I'm learning about what I'm doing. And I feel really honored to be the fourth person to come on the podcast. So thank you for the invite.
Thank you. Well, thank you for accepting the invitation. And so, I first want to tell everyone at the beginning of all of my podcasts, I try to tell people why this particular topic is important to me. And when I got divorced 2024 and I separated 2022, so from 2022 now to 2026, the process in dating has not been very fun. I wish I could say that it was just like so amazing, and but I think the way that I'm wired, I'm wired to be someone's wife.
Yeah.
And my friends tell me this. I literally say, like, I just want to, I just want to be casual and I just want to be able to just date all these men and it just be, I want to be the baddies on TikTok. Like I want to be able to do all this stuff. And they always say, Alicia, you're not wired that way. You're
Like that's
not.
not you.
No, naturally, like I am a very nurturing, loving, like
Mhm.
turn a house into a home type of lady. And so the dating process, I mean, I have completely, started watching all the dating coaches content, looking at the matchmaking content. Like I want to make sure that I'm approaching this in the most healthy way, especially after something as traumatizing as a divorce. And by the time I, started dating, I hadn't dated in 9, 10 years at that point. And so when I was dating in 2020, well, not, no, 2014, 2014, 2015 was the last time I was dating before I met my ex. And so Tinder was the only dating app that was out for a point of reference. And I don't even think I was ever on Tinder. And so that just shows you how much dating has changed. And so, learning a little bit about matchmaking, and it feels very, I don't know, kind of old school how families used to get together and say, oh, I got my son, and my son can date your daughter, And I like that. I am
Yeah.
all for that. Please,
Same.
someone help me because clearly I'm not doing a great job.
Right. We can't do
So,
it alone. We
we can't
shouldn't.
do it alone. Yeah, we have to find our fit in community.
I agree.
And so that's why I decided to welcome Alex on so we can talk a little bit about what does it mean to date healthily? What does it mean to identify compatibility over just chemistry. And
Mhm.
I feel like everybody could use a little bit of help in regards to dating because of the way that society has framed dating over the past 10, 20 years. And so that's why I wanted to welcome Alex on. And that's why this episode is really important to me. So, Alex, I'm gonna ask you because Alex, if you follow the Well Matched, which is the name of his matchmaking company, you know that he always has these Instagram lives, okay? And so he always puts his participants in the hot seat. So Alex is gonna be a little bit in the hot seat today. So I know
Oh
that
my
all
God. Let's go though. Forget it. I
I
mean,
know
like,
that
yeah, it'll
I
be
know
fun.
that all the people that were on his lives are probably going to live for this. Okay, so first I want you to tell me a little bit about your personal love story or your connection with love.
Okay. Um, let's start about my personal love story. So, I'm married, been married for 7 years. I met my wife, Mallory, when she was 22, and I was 25. We met at an ugly sweater party. I walked up to her and said something about her ugly sweater. We had a conversation. We went out on a date the next day, dated for, well, let's say about 2.5 years, and I proposed,
Mhm.
waited a year, got married, and yeah. So, um, yeah, just like everybody else, just trying to figure out, your own tenets of manhood and
Mhm.
tenets of womanhood and shared values of a relationship as you go through a marriage. I think that that's something that is constantly relevant and potentially changing,
Yeah.
just with how you grow. Um, so yeah, I would say that that's my journey. I'm married. Before I got married, we didn't do marriage counseling, but we've done
Mhm.
therapy since. And yeah, we're just trying to make sure that we both are providing the other person with, the partner that they deserve.
Yeah, yeah. And I love when men, especially because I feel like on social media, there's a lot of content by women about relationships and about things like therapy and things like that, but more men coming into the conversation about their experiences
Mm.
because especially as you're talking about needs. So I've been in a relationship with someone who wasn't necessarily able as a man like articulate like, hey, this is what I need, and I think we do focus a lot on women and, happy wife, happy life. But I think someone else said like happy spouse, happy house or something. And so I think that's important. I think, I'm glad that we have more men entering that conversation. And so, what you talked about like your marriage and things, but are there any other experiences in your life that you feel like shaped the way that you view love or the way that you view relationships and compatibility?
Yeah, I would say everything. Like, I'm just
Mhm.
someone who pays attention. Like, even when you were talking just there about happy wife, happy life, like that's an experience that shaped love and marriage for me. Then you hear
Yeah.
things like happy house, happy spouse, that also can further etch out, if this is like a stone carving, right? Like you're
Mhm.
learning more about what you believe in and like
Yeah.
what you are allowed to receive and what you should be giving, right? So like if someone's main thought is happy wife, happy life, then you're gonna not feel like you have the ability to need something from that wife,
Yeah.
right? So you
Yeah.
talked about how difficult it is for some Black men to talk about their needs. That's because a lot of us didn't feel like we had the ability to need something. Like you just should
Mhm.
provide and protect. Like what do you need? Like you being a little sassy with your needs. Like how much you need, bro? You know what I'm saying? And I think that you almost have to we almost are learning from women and how you all advocate for yourself. And if you
Yes.
go to therapy, you have a therapist who helps you advocate, who helps you understand that no, man, like it should be a happy house and that leads to a happy spouse. So that's both of you
Mhm.
putting each other first and trying to forecast the other person's needs and meet them in that moment and meet them in that space, whether it be, easy for you to do that or uncomfortable, right? Like the idea is for you to understand that as you are meeting the needs of someone else, someone should be hoping to meet your needs as well. Like that's what makes an aligned couple, in my opinion.
I love that you said an aligned couple. I feel like I'm constantly getting God winks all the time.
I
And
like that. That makes
I met with my mentor yesterday, and she's been one of my mentors and been in my life since I was a child. She was my dance teacher. And we were talking about life and just talking about how um, being aligned and being aligned with the right partner, being aligned with the right role, the right job for you, being aligned with
yes,
the right friends, is great. And then on another episode, when I talked to my friend Nick Young, he talked about how not being in alignment can be detrimental to your mental health.
yes.
And so I love that you use the word aligned. And you said something else, and I'm not going to get on my feminist
Please do. Like I
soapbox.
mean, nah, please do. Like again, first off, let me just say, I think this is a safe space. Like I am not a therapist. I'm a strategist, and I'm somebody who tries to, not even base my philosophies and principles around matchmaking
Yeah,
based on my own, experiences, right? Like
right.
my case is going to be different from anyone else's. I'm not sitting here telling anyone what they need to do or what they shouldn't. So I guess I'm saying that to say, like, I'm constantly learning. So if there is
Yeah.
something that I say or said, like, I know I'm a man, but like, I don't know what I don't know from your perspective. So please
Yes.
share that so maybe we can even have a conversation and get clarity.
Yeah. And just the fact that you're so open is that's a green flag. We're gonna talk about green flags later on, but but no, it wasn't anything you said. But when you talked about how men are learning from women,
Hmm.
um, in regards to being open about their feelings. So for me, misogyny, when I that's why I said I was gonna say I'm not trying to get on my feminist soapbox, but misogyny hurts men and women. It hurts men because it creates this society where they do not have the space to be vulnerable.
Hmm.
And it's hard because a lot of this is from childhood. So when they come, become adults and it's time for them to live in partnership with a woman and she's vocalizing her needs and it's like framed as like, oh, she's nagging, she's bitching, and when in reality it may sometimes it could be nagging but sometimes it's just like, hey, I have
Offer
this
help.
need. Yeah, I just have a need and I want my need to be met by my partner. And so from the man's perspective, if they have gone their entire life not being able to vocalize their needs or being told to suck it up, being told like, you're a boy, you're a man, you shouldn't cry, you shouldn't be upset, that is how that internalized misogyny works against them because they don't have the thought process that they're able to have needs.
Mhm.
And then on the flip side of that, we haven't even gotten to talking about matchmaking yet, but on the flip side of that, as a woman, one of my struggles in the past in partnership has been um, not being aware of my partner's vulnerabilities or when they were trying to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and not just like, okay, he's saying this and I'm hearing what he's saying, but I need to listen beyond what he's saying. Like, oh, this is a bid for
Connection.
connection. And sometimes I missed it.
It's an
I missed it.
outreach. It's not,
Yeah.
you feel like, yeah, a lot of people sense that from what I've heard, right? And
Mhm.
just what I've experienced too, especially as you are learning about what's allowable, which is a crazy thought in the first place, because that just kind of like insinuates that there's just a standard, like that you have to make, like there's a cookie cut way to do things. And, it's scary because men feel like, yo, in that standard, like you aren't allowed to like communicate certain needs. And if you do, it's a small quota, my boy, so it's like don't do too much. Don't be too needy because again, you're labeled. So I think that, um, as people are trying to better understand how they want to show up and how they want to feel heard and seen, um, you have to kind of give people grace. I think you gotta try your best to get outside of thinking like you're dating yourself or you're married to yourself, and
Yeah.
because you think of certain a certain way, they should. So when they don't say it in the best way or don't, it doesn't land in the way that it you would have said it, right? Like you
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
have to just be aware enough to take note of that and to just listen and ask questions, ask better questions, be a little bit more curious so that you
Mhm.
can perhaps, you know, do some of that work alongside the person to get them to, you know, to a place where I guess they're more safe and free. Because
Yeah.
to me, that's when people open up, right? Like if they kind of open up that door of closeness, tell you something they'd never have, or they told you something that like they feel like, they've never told anyone else, like that's a place that everybody doesn't get to see. So just keep in mind that it's important that you look at it in a certain way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, as a woman,
Mhm.
and this is something we don't want to admit a lot of times, so much of what we experience and how we show up has to do with our ego.
Mhm.
And so for me, when I went through my own divorce, I'm a very introspective person, but I definitely think my divorce helped me become more introspective because when I marry again and I want to have more children and I want to, like, I love being in partnership and I love serving my family.
Mhm.
And so I knew that if I was going to get to that phase of my life again, I want it to be so good. I want it to be, I want to be a safe place for my husband. Like, I want him to want to come home and want to be around me and want to be in the space with our family. And so I had to do a lot of internal work and do a lot of breaking down of my own ego to say, you're not perfect. You didn't do that last relationship perfect. Here are some things, that can help
Right.
moving forward. And this is how you can, and I think I've done a better job. I'm definitely not perfect at it, but in the dating experiences I've had over the past few years, I have done better. Like, what I have been told by the men in my life is that I feel really safe. I feel like I can tell you anything. And I'm grateful for that growth in my own life because I knew I wasn't great at it 5 years ago.
I
I knew
love that.
that.
I love that. Nah, like that's attractive to men.
Mhm.
So I would say definitely keep that energy and, just pray for patience for certain men. Because I think that
Yeah.
while there's a necessary journey men need to go through,
Mhm.
the pace of that journey, the pace at which they walk and journey through might be different for everybody. And, also be true to yourself with how much work you're willing to do for someone else,
Yeah.
if that's even possible for you to do. Like there's not a right or wrong answer. You got some people who just don't mind, ushering, navigating someone to where they're gonna ultimately arrive at. But,
Yeah.
you know, that can be unfair to certain people. So you
Yeah.
may just want to think about how do you get a better sense of someone's capacity to meet you
Yes.
there early or on so that you aren't jeopardizing wasted time, or you jeopardizing your time and wasting time.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talked about like someone's capacity, like what I've learned too, because I can be a little, Captain Save a man, sometimes. And I can't do the work for them.
Hmm.
And I think when it comes down to alignment, you have to find someone that's close to where you are, and then you can grow together. And it doesn't mean that they're perfect. You just have to find someone as closely aligned to where you are, or they have maybe a capacity deficit that you can deal with.
There you go. There you go.
And you can,
Exactly.
Yeah, and you can help them grow as much as you can, but you can't do the work for them. So I mentioned to everyone, so we've had a great conversation. Me and Alex, we like to yap. So and I mentioned in the beginning that Alex has a matchmaking company called The Well Matched, and he is based out of Houston. And so I want to say, did you work in corporate before that?
Yeah, I worked so went to Morehouse, after Morehouse, moved to Cali, worked at Google, um,
Mhm.
and then moved to Houston for a management consulting role
Mhm.
at a strategy consulting firm and did that for 12 years. And now I'm working for the city of Houston in a as a strategist.
Mhm.
But yeah, this work that we're talking about today is central to my purpose, and
Mhm.
which I took time to kind of ask God to reveal to me.
Yeah.
And I'm just so blessed that my purpose is something that is kind of backed by my current skill set and also
Yes.
relevant to what I believe our community needs right now. So I'm able
Mhm.
to do something that I feel like God is always ordering my steps, in order to do it better and better. But also I'm capable of doing it. And it's just something that I believe like we as young Black people need to
Mhm.
kind of learn. And I think the conversations we're having, if people follow my stories and my page, like I think everyone could benefit from the conversation. It's not man leaning, it's not woman leaning. It's like, how do we get on the same page and have, real discussions around these topics that's super relevant to just where we are as a people, as a culture right now.
Yeah, so that was actually my question, and you answered it very well about like how you got into matchmaking. And so you talked about
I could say
Black
more
people.
about that though.
Oh
So
yeah, okay, please. I was gonna I was gonna ask like tell me more. Tell me
I
what
can
was
tell you
your
about the
journey?
first couple I matched, right? So,
Yes.
before I would call myself a matchmaker, I think I was just someone who listened to my friends and was a problem solver. And I just remember both friends. One person I knew from college, the other I knew her from high school, and they didn't know each other, but they were both kind of telling me about the types of person, the type of people and the person that they wanted to find. And I was just listening to both and kind of did some internal math, and was just like, and, asked them separate questions just to clarify, but not to like lead the witness, because I
Yeah.
think that's what it's about, right? Like, you don't want some men are fearful because they feel like they're sitting across the table with someone at dinner, they're like, are you saying this stuff because you believe it, or are you saying it because you think I want to hear it? So
Yeah.
what I did then was just try to hear both of them out. And then I threw a kickback at my house and invited like 50 people. And I didn't tell anybody the purpose of that kickback was for Fred and Maggie to meet. But I told them that y'all need to meet each other. I think y'all be great.
Yeah.
And, they met. He asked, to take her on a date. The rest is history. And then like he proposed, they announced they were getting married. And then at the wedding, this is before I was like officially a matchmaker too. I was still working as a corporate strategist. At the wedding, they announced that she was pregnant too. And so when I tell you at that reception, there were so many people that came up to me and was like, "Who you got for me?" And I was like, honestly, no one, because if you're in Houston and you're not married, you're not serious. And I think that's what I used to always say and think. But
Yeah.
then I was like, I had to kind of challenge myself and say, is that actually true? Like, because
Yeah.
I know that as a married dude, I ask other married men, like, man, how's it going? How are you and your wife? Um, what are y'all working on? Like, how's it progressing? All that stuff, like sharing kind of lessons learned, best practices, all that. But it's less likely for me to ask somebody who's single, like, yo, what's it like out there? Like, are you
Yeah.
how do you make sure that you're not like fighting loneliness with just relationships? Like, do you do
Yeah.
situationships? Are you dating anyone intentionally? Like that conversation rarely happens. So I was like, yo, if I were to do this, because there does seem to be a market, like how do I ensure that there's actually men out there that are ready and serious, like I was, you know?
Yeah.
And as I did that, I found out there in fact are. It's just hard to find.
Yeah, yeah. And I think as a single person, like there is a lot of I guess discouragement if you
Mhm.
go through multiple dating situations where the person isn't ready, they don't have capacity for you, or they're not intentional, or it can seem like, okay, who is a good person out here? Who I feel like that's easier to ask, like who is a good potential partner. And so I think we need other options. And that was going to be my next question. Like, how do you compare um, matchmaking to dating apps or other ways that people are meeting these days? Because for me, especially someone that lives in like Louisiana, like there just doesn't seem to be a lot of opportunities to meet people. And then people aren't like, I would say men, I don't feel like men are approaching as much as they did 10 years ago. And so I feel like, it's a mix of, and a lot of people at my age are already married too, as well. So I feel like there's a lot of great guys, they're just married, so it's not a
Right.
lack of men,
Right.
they're
Yeah.
just married already. So tell me, like, how does matchmaking differ from like a dating app?
Yeah. So again, I'm like you. I haven't been on dating apps. But from what I hear about them, they're unserious. And it's maybe you get a sense of how serious someone is based on what dating app they're on. Like if someone's on Tinder, they are
Yeah.
serious than someone who's on Hinge. And, even though Hinge tries to get to a point where, they ask some prompts to better identify if there's compatibility or alignment, like they don't really go that deep, and people kind
Mhm.
of are able to hide behind something that doesn't fully represent them. So in the apps is like you swipe, based off of how someone looks first, right? Like
Right.
across all the apps, the first thing someone is judging is this person attractive enough? Like we have this attraction floor and ceiling, right? But like
Right.
they above my attractive floor, because if not, then it ain't gonna work. So I don't even care to read if this person doesn't kind of um, come across as someone I'd like to, you know, feel like I would have chemistry with, right?
Yeah.
And attraction is a big part of chemistry. So I would say that that's how my process differs, right? Like first
Mhm.
off, while I do those lives and while I do try to show quote unquote the inventory, I'm really trying to solve for compatibility. So like on paper, who
Yeah.
do you most align with? Based on the questions that I asked in the questionnaire, I asked them in a way to where you can't kind of like fake the funk, like
Right.
gotta keep it real. Otherwise, I'm gonna be able to tell, like, oh, okay, that didn't align there. Like you
Yeah.
contradicted yourself there. Or I'm asking questions in a way to where you are telling me what you want and what you're looking for. For instance, I'll ask, are you an introvert, extrovert, ambivert? And what do you want in your partner? Like, what are your religious goals? What are your religious, like, what is your religion? Like, what do you want your
Mhm.
partner's religion to be? So if you say, you are actively practicing and you are looking for an introvert, like that's what I'm going to try to solve for, right?
Right.
I'm not going to try to guess. I'm just going to go based off of what you said. And I think that's what kind of differentiates me from the apps, right? Like I'm trying to connect you with somebody you said you wanted and that aligns based off of what you shared. And then I hope that you find this person attractive. So it's kind of the sequence at which attraction comes up as a main differentiator. But
Mhm.
the other ways that people meet people is like through other matchmakers or dating coaches.
Yeah.
And I just feel like the dating coaches give people, perspectives, but everybody's different. So you got to be careful with what you hear from someone who doesn't truly know you. So just keep that in mind. And also,
Yeah.
you don't have people to match you with based off of, what they believe is true. So they can say, girl, don't go past date one if XYZ doesn't happen. But if they can't help
Yeah.
you find someone to go on day one with, then it's like you can kind of keep that advice, honestly. The
Yeah.
matchmakers that's out there, they don't really go deep with asking the questions,
Hmm.
because it's a business. They're focusing on the
Yes.
business
Right.
side. I'm not there yet, right? This is more of like a purpose for me. So I'm not charging per matches. So for me,
Right.
it's like, how do I better align the person with the person that they've asked for? Like I'm trying to get very specific to what you want. So when you hear from me, you know that like you can trust this. The only thing is going to be on you to find if you are attracted to them. But for the things
Yeah.
like height and income, the things that you say you want, I'm looking for those
Mhm.
things for you. But the things that I can't ask him about, you know what I'm saying? Certain aspects,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So like that comes with y'all. So if there's chemistry, hopefully there is, that's tougher for me to kind of match based off of.
Yeah, so for those that aren't familiar with the well match just yet, Alex mentioned his questionnaire. He has a very exhaustive questionnaire, guys, that he allows people to do when they join his program. And he utilizes those questions to try to find your match. And I think um, you mentioned about dating apps. Like, I have been on the apps
Mhm.
before since I've been dating this time, but I got off of them probably about November of last year, and I said I was not going to be on them at all in 2026. It's just I don't feel like, and maybe it's my little empathetic heart. I just I just don't feel like people need to be commodified in that way. I don't feel like
Mhm.
we need to have that much access to so many people and to be rejected that often or even just to have exposure to that many people. Like, I would prefer to meet someone organically, but I do understand how great of a tool it can be, especially for someone that lives in a small town or like just doesn't have the opportunity to meet people super often, and especially the certain type of person. So I appreciate them for what they are, but I've been taking a little break. Um,
Yeah, a lot of people are, and it's just like it gives you the sense that you're being more productive because you're on the app, but it doesn't
yes.
necessarily mean that you actually are because you could just be doing some mindless kind of dopamine inciting
Mhm.
activities that don't necessarily amount to like you getting any closer to finding a person. So it could be harmful in that, like, just because you're on the
Yeah,
apps, meaning like, yo, that's all you need to be doing. Like, nah, if you take away the apps, you can really just focus on being the best version of yourself and then also be intentional about putting yourself in places and spaces
right.
um, where you're likely to meet someone who aligns with you based on the clarity that you have.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so I wanted to talk about red flags.
Okay.
Now, as we go along in our interview, I don't want to just talk about like the things that everybody's talking about on social media
Mm,
in regards to dating and love, because I feel like it's just, we're beating a dead horse to a certain extent.
okay.
But I want to talk about like how you can start learning to trust yourself when you're making the choice and you're, being the chooser, but also like what are people's red flags within themselves that they may not realize? Because I do think that that's a benefit of a dating coach and a matchmaker is sometimes they can tell you um, things that you don't see about yourself. And so, like, there's a Muslim matchmaker on TikTok that everybody loves to talk about. She's hilarious, and she will say like there was this girl, the most recent one I watched. She was a physical therapist and she wanted to be matched with a doctor, but she was like really picky about the specialty. And so the matchmaker was like, "Girl, you're not a physician either, though. So why are you being this picky about,
Right. That's hilarious.
like, about the specialty. And so it wasn't really a real great reason why she was picky about the specialty, but she was like, no, I don't want any, primary care physicians. It's like, what? So what are things that you've seen like in as you've been evaluating these questions on your questionnaire or as you've been doing your one-on-ones that you might be like, okay, you know what? This is a red flag.
What you just described, honestly, like when people want a very particular thing, but not based off of the work that they've done and just like kind of done in like a bubble, right? Like doesn't
Mhm.
have the peripheral of like the trade-off of what they're actually making. So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Like the easiest way for me to say it is like people don't seem to be their type's type.
Yeah.
So it's like that was an example of what you kind of said, but it's also like let's say you have a black woman who might be making $400,000.
Hmm.
And let's say she doesn't work out, but her type is a very fit black man who also
Yes.
makes 400,000
Right.
because you want something that's homogenous a bit and like you then may have to you would have to look at that black man who's tall and handsome making 400,000. Is that person gonna feel like his type is the black woman in this case that's making that
Mhm.
money and that's not in the gym as much as he is? Like he may
Yeah.
not she may feel like this is my only type. I don't need to be with anybody that's making under what I'm making, right? But then that black man that's her type may look at her and be like, I don't need to have someone who makes just as much as me. In fact, I
Yes.
don't want you to make the same amount of money than I do, whether that's for toxic reasons or not toxic. You know what I'm saying? Like, people aren't the type, but then, you have the situation where it's a black man who thinks that, like, shoot, I want someone who's attractive and fit,
Mhm.
funny and kind and giving and nurturing. But, like, bro, you're not doing all the things. Like, what are your tenets of manhood? Like, you're not living
Yeah.
to her ideal version of what she wants. So I just think that right now, our red flag is that we're very transactional with each other, you know.
Mm.
And our red flag is that we are talking, at each other, not to each other. It doesn't seem like we're trying to better understand both sides. It feels
Mhm.
like everybody is just trying to build a bay. Everybody's trying to
Yes.
say, here's what I want, 6 foot, six figures,
Right.
6 inches,
My God today.
all that, you know what I'm saying? Like it's all that. And I think that like that woman in your analogy, she said, oh, I don't want him to be a primary care doctor. It's almost like she dated a primary care doctor and then it didn't end up working. And now she's like, I'm going to unload all of that experience onto you,
Hmm.
even though this person is completely different. So I don't like when men say I don't want to date nurses or women say I don't want to date trainers. Like you
Yeah.
you could not want to date someone with certain qualities and characteristics and habits and flaws and flags, but like
Hmm.
based off a profession to me just seems like okay, maybe you're not ready. Maybe you got
Yeah.
something you need to work through. Or if that's not the case, like tell me why. Like let's get into
Yeah.
specifically how you've arrived at something so specific. Because if that's really the result of the work you've done, cool. Let's try to find that person. If not, then it's like a unicorn. You're looking for something that truly doesn't exist.
Yeah. And I think there's just a disconnect between what I will speak from my experience, like what I think would be a good person and then are a good person to date, and maybe what the person that I'm interested in, what their thoughts about what a good person to date would be. Like
Mhm.
men don't value the same things that women do. And so I get this all the time in regards to education. Like a lot of times people believe if you're very well educated, that it shouldn't be hard for you. But I'm like, men don't care about that. Like, they don't care about, in my experience, how much money I make. They don't care about what car I drive. They don't care about, how much education I have. I just don't really experience men that are like, oh yeah, like she's a great catch because she's really well educated. Like they usually, what is valuable to them is usually primarily attractiveness, and of course, I think there are other things. I think it's, really unfair to put men in a box and just say, oh, they don't care about someone who's being kind or they don't care about someone, who's caring and nurturing. I think they do care, but I think you don't get in the door unless you're fine. Like I don't, like I feel like, and I guess that kind of sucks because, like for me, I do feel like my greatest asset is my mind and, my ability to care, and so I think there's just a disconnect there. I truly do. But that doesn't mean that, like, I think for men, they have to start to become very self-actualized. And I think that is what is missing. Now, of course, women do too. I'm not just putting, men in a box, but I don't date women, so I don't, care about what women are doing, you know. But for men, I think that the more self-actualized they become, the more they'll value the qualities that really mean something in the long run. Like, and that is what I fear is missing, what I feel is missing in the dating culture with men. Like, there's not enough men who are married or even not married having the conversations and saying, listen, bro, like, this is the type of stuff, this is what you need to be looking for. I know that she is fine as all get out, but she's taking all your money. She's a gold digger. Like she doesn't care about you. Like, and I'm telling you, I have these conversations with my guy friends all the time. I'm like, you're batting underneath like where you are, bro. You're here and you're
Mhm,
dating this girl from the corner,
mhm,
who's down here, and and I'm not saying anything about her, but it's like she's not matching you mentally. She's not matching you emotionally. She's not matching where you are and your ability to grow and your ambition and your leadership. And so then you get 5 years down the line and you're like, why is this not working? Why do we hate each other? And it's like you went for the wrong thing,
mhm.
so
I think
you
the
know,
thing that we like about somebody can be the thing that we, detest most, right? You could find someone who, if you're a doctor, they're also a doctor, right? Y'all can
mhm,
talk about your patients, y'all can talk about, what it's like being a young Black doctor, but then
mhm,
you could maybe find yourself like wanting someone who isn't always seemingly competing or challenging you or testing you based on
yeah,
your own knowledge. Like, why can't I'm a doctor? Like, why am I not being treated like a doctor in the same way at home as I am in the office? Right.
yeah,
Um, and I think that the same is true on the flip side. You're a doctor, you find someone that works at Wendy's, and
yeah,
y'all, she stops working at Wendy's. Now y'all getting together, and you may say, and all she know how to do is make burgers. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like,
right,
like I want to have a conversation about anatomy. I want her to be able to not embarrass me when we go to dinner at
yeah,
with friends. But it's like the thing that you liked most, right? Might be the thing. Like it's two sides to every coin.
yeah,
And I think that it's just important to just not judge people based on what they do, but like really
yeah,
ask questions beforehand to see if they have the capacity to like meet you where you kind of see the marriage going, right? A doctor knows
yeah,
the conversations they may want to have, whether this person is a doctor or not. So like you may just want to glean like how are you someone that wants to make me look good? Like, cannot, like what Beyonce say, like take you just to compliment the deal,
yeah,
and it's just like, is that something you want to do for me? Is that something I
Yeah.
can do for you? Because the answer could be no for that Wendy's girl and yes for that doctor, and it couldn't be a problem.
Right. Yeah. And I think you have to just get clear about what are the things that are really important to you down the line. We talked about so many different things. And I mentioned too about when you're trying to find someone after you've gone through a traumatic experience.
Mm,
So how can someone date without necessarily projecting a past hurt on the new person? Because I will say that I haven't necessarily done that a lot, but I have been able to identify, okay, is this about this person or is this about like my own trigger? And going back to what we were talking about earlier, like when you were saying someone not wanting the primary care physician, you know, people are people. Like it's a different experience no matter who you're dealing with, and you have to make sure that you're not taking like a past situation and just applying it to all people that you're dating,
right.
so how can someone date without doing that projecting?
I think, right now, one of the main ways people view like what it's like to date is like through that pop the balloon shit.
Yes.
You have a dude who has 10 options and they have their balloons too. So listen, dude, you're not in the power position you think you are. So you go out there, you start talking, you say one thing that goes wrong, pop, 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 pop. You say another thing that they don't like, pop, pop, pop. And you
Right.
realize like, okay, you don't have as many options as you thought, or, like now you kind of gotta like adjust your approach based off of things that people don't like. And then
Yeah.
I wonder, like, is that you being genuine and authentic? Because, like, you're
Yeah.
getting this real life data. Same thing with apps, too, the swiping. I would say that if we're gonna pop a balloon, like, let's pop it from it inflating too much versus you popping it at the first thing you didn't like when you heard it, right? So like you should understand like if somebody is describing who they are, you should give them time and space and grace. You should ask questions. There should be no limit to how many questions you get to ask them. Like, no, this is
Yeah.
important if you're finding someone. And I think that with every answer that you love, you inflate into with every answer that you like, not for me. Maybe let some of it out, but like, or just don't inhale it, right? But the balloon should pop when you've heard some things you may not love, but you've heard so much other stuff that made you feel like this person, you know, has the capacity, has a commitment level you want. There's chemistry there, right? There's compatibility. Like if you have those things, then blow away. You know what I'm saying? And then pop the balloon, and then that's how I think you should find someone. I just think that
Yeah.
it's backwards though. People are making snap judgments and canceling people, and I think it's that's embarrassing. It takes away someone's dignity. It makes you feel like you know enough about someone that you just met, which is wild. And yeah, I just think that we could be doing a better job with how we identify who's the right person for us. And so to get to that point, I think you need a matchmaker. I think you need someone who maybe
Mhm.
who has access to people that may not be in your bubble. Not to say that like I know for me, I want people to still go out and meet new people. And I want to be
Yeah.
surprised when they call me and they're like, yo, you can take me out the database, bro. Like I'm
Yeah.
good. Like that brings joy to my heart because that's
Yeah.
the only thing that I want for everybody. Like I'm not doing this for money. I'm not doing this for fame. I'm doing this because I think this is what God wants me to do. Because right now our culture needs to get closer.
Yeah, and my last question, all of that is like, it's funny because you'll say these things and I'm like, oh man, I've thought about that. Like, or
Mm,
I've given some consideration to those types of streams of thought. And
mhm,
so I think for me too, like it's best if you look at people for who they're presenting,
Mm,
not who I think that they are, and also not who I want them to be.
hmm
And so that's what I've struggled with it in the past, but I think I'm getting to the point where I can look at someone clearly, and see them very soberly. That's the word I'm thinking of.
Good.
And as you know, I'm just a girl, so we have a tendency to view someone with rose-colored glasses. That's been an issue for me in the past, is like I see this person and they have I feel like they're in a profession that, is interesting, and we might talk and we have great chemistry and all these different things, but the compatibility is not there. And I that is that conversation. I know you talk a lot about chemistry versus compatibility. That reality is what keeps me sober in dating. Like, okay, he's great, but he does not want a relationship or is not actively pursuing it. It's not intentional. So all of the things that you have in your mind about this man is a moot point, because he isn't, if he's not intentionally pursuing you, then it's a no. And so I have to literally tell myself, girl, it's a no. He's doing this thing, it's a no. Like,
Mm,
I got to talk myself down, because I'll have the wedding plans in my mind. So I just, and I know that's, like I said, I joke, but I'm like, I really am just a girl. What am I supposed to do?
mm. I feel you on that. And I mean, just your point about chemistry and compatibility. So, like, I've thought about it even like, I've thought about it some more and I've arrived at like your person and your partner are different, right?
Okay,
So, like,
tell me about that, because that's a new one.
yeah, I've thought it through, but I want you to let's workshop it, right? This is where I'm at. And anybody who's listening too, I want to hear from y'all too. So I think we always assume like, yeah, I want to find my person. Like that's the name of the questionnaire. I want to find my person questionnaire. And it's just like, that's cool, but like I realize your person ain't your partner. You know what I'm saying? So your person is someone where it's the right mix, like you said, chemistry and compatibility. If y'all got chemistry, like if there's fire there, like if you find him attractive, if like he meets like all your must-haves for your attributes, like good teeth,
Good
like
teeth
just
is insane.
yeah, like oh my gosh, I would love to just show you all the things I see. But basically, if he looked like Jalen Hurt or Mufasa, okay, like that's that chemistry. Now compatibility are things like I said, like okay, do y'all have the same kind of like level of, do y'all view therapy in the same way? Maybe he hasn't gone, but he doesn't view it as like, nah, that's the devil or that's toxic or,
Right.
financial mindset. Like, are y'all kind of like on the same page, like where you both are kind of, you know, hitting the goals that you want to, but also
Yeah.
know that like if he makes less, like you can do that for him and like that works with y'all dynamic. Or if he makes more, like however much you make aligns, like the compatibility with, relationship goals and roles, like all of those things. If there's compatibility in chemistry, that's your person. But your partner is things like capacity and level of commitment. Because how many times have you seen somebody that, let's say you got somebody who's about to go through a divorce or just went through a divorce. This
Mhm.
person let's assume this person is a good person that has the ability to commit, that has the
Right.
capacity to show up as a good husband. Let's say in this scenario, his wife passed away, right?
Mhm.
So you know that person is going to necessarily like need some time to grieve. So
Yeah.
you can see all those qualities, but then know that they don't have the capacity in that moment to meet you with what you're trying to get back from them. And then, so I think that you got these scenarios where you got the perfect gent and, saying he's attractive. Y'all like the same things. You always see him at the
Mm.
same events, and it's not just the club. It's like when you go to the art show, he pulls up and y'all can talk art, and but he's one of those guys who's like, I'm never gonna get married, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or listen, I always want my wife to not work. Or the
Well,
flip side, right? Like this level of commitment that they are willing to go to or not
yeah.
go to, and this capacity that they have or don't have in relation with the other person, that's a really big aspect of who your match is. So for me, it's like you got your person and your partner, and then that overlap is like what I'm trying to
Yes.
help people find, because they can be the same person. I'm just saying, like, they can also be very different.
Okay, Venn diagram. I'm
Come
here
on,
for
man.
it.
Okay. Come on,
I'm
man.
here for
I,
it.
I told you I'm a
You know,
strategist.
yes, I see that. I see that. And so, I'll say one more thing before we wrap up. It's funny you say workshopping because I've thought about this in the exact same way. Like, I've been thinking about the concept of a purpose partner.
Mm,
And I know, like, I know people get hyper spiritual on TikTok when they talk about like spiritual spouse, and I don't know anything about all of that.
mhm,
But what I do know is I've been thinking about the concept of what does it mean to be someone's purpose partner, and how they may not be like the first person that you're with, or even the first person that you married. And I know that's crazy, especially as a believer, but like when I look at examples now, I don't need any feedback on if these are good or bad examples. But I have been noticing like a trend though.
mhm,
Like, okay, some of these people are recently married, so that's, we'll see. But like Keon and Shawnee Henderson,
mhm,
okay? Like Sarah Jakes and Teray Roberts,
mhm,
okay, both being married before.
mhm,
Um, who was somebody else? Pastor Darius Daniels, Shamika Daniels, um, Adrian Houghton, especially Adrian and Israel, especially them because I think about like how Adrian Houghton always talks about how when she was in Cheetah Girls, and even before, like Adrian started off singing gospel music or like Christian music, and then she went into like her Cheetah Girl era, but she always had it in her to like sing gospel and always had it in her. Then Israel's married to someone else, he gets divorced, then they get together, and now they're making like beautiful Christian music together. Sarah Jakes Roberts, of course, was previously married, is the heir to one of the largest, Christian church dynasties. And
mhm,
she ends up being partnered with someone who complements her so well. And on top of that, is a pastor and a preacher in his own right and isn't like threatened by her giftedness or
mhm,
her background or her story, and doesn't suffocate or suppress her gift, but makes it better and allows her to thrive, and vice versa. So when I say purpose partner, like I'm thinking in my own mind, in me moving through this healing journey, because ultimately, all of this is about healing. All of, my podcast and what we're trying to work toward. The title of this particular episode is Healing in Love. And
mhm,
so we talked about all of the work that you have to do to truly like get to a place where you're healed in your heart, even if you've gone through, challenges and hardships and trauma. And so all of those people that I just mentioned, many of them, not all of them, but many of them went through things. And like Sarah talks about, having a baby at 14 and like being divorced and all these different, challenges that they had,
mhm,
but it still led them to the right person that can enhance their purpose,
mhm.
make their purpose bigger. Someone that it's almost like a lock and key. And I think that there are like, how you have multiple keys, and I might have a key that can fit in the hole,
But it won't turn.
but it won't turn.
Mhm,
Like, and that is how I'm thinking about dating now, that,
mhm,
you know, I think it's a really good place that I find myself in, and many people in my life find themselves in, where they're not in a rush. They're not in a rush to have kids. They're not in a rush. Maybe they're divorced. Maybe they already have kids, or maybe they're just in a place in their life where they're good. They don't need a partner for financial stability or don't need a partner, it's even for their own validation, but it's something that they desire. And so I think with when you're choosing a partner from that very healed place, you're not seeking love to be chosen. You're not seeking love for your own validation. But now what I need is I know, like we talk about in the Bible how if a man the man who finds a wife obtains favor, like I think it's a mutual thing too, so I think for me now it has to be that purpose partner. It has to be somebody who is going to, you know, completely rock my world and make my life better because life is already pretty good. So it's just something I've been thinking about. And so I love the fact that you've been like workshopping your own version of that.
Too.
That means like, okay, I'm not just on my own in thinking of
Nah,
that.
nah, heck no, and I love that. I just want to, give you some thoughts. Like I love purpose partner. I agree with all those examples you laid out. And even like if you're right now in a relationship, I don't want you to feel like you have to go through a divorce to find your purpose partner. I know that's not what you're
Yeah.
saying. I
Yeah.
think that like, you might just have to divorce the current marriage figuratively.
Yes.
You may have to let certain beliefs and aspects and truths and values die
Yeah.
figuratively and then reestablish through recommitment, um
Hmm.
like a rebirth kind of idea and tenets of connection for you two, and then that can be your purpose partner. So I agree. I think that you're not going to die alone. You're not hopeless if you left someone and you're divorced. Like,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like before you get a divorce, like there's also opportunities for people to reconnect.
Yeah,
I
for
never
sure.
understood like why people would do the like the rededications of their marriage. Like, why do people do
Yeah.
that? And I
Like
was
vow
like,
renewals. Yeah.
yeah, the vow renewals. I was just like, that just seems like they just want to throw another party. They just want to get attention. But after you're married, man, you realize that that's a real thing. I think that kind of goes back and harkens back to what I was just explaining, because it's like,
Yeah.
you know, when you get married to someone, you cannot expect them to continue to change in the trajectory at which you want them to. Some people don't change
Yeah.
anymore. Some people change, but in ways that you didn't want them to. So if
Yes.
and you don't know that going into it, no one's doing this intentionally. People are just kind of
Right.
living their life. So if you are married to somebody and, it's not going great, know that there potentially could be hope for that to be your purpose partner. And I could
Yeah.
see if that happened and they were able to find a new way to move forward, that could in fact be someone's purpose partner, even though you probably felt
Yeah.
like it wasn't beforehand. So nah, I love that. Keep that. That's good. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you so much for hopping on. I think at the heart of many of the things that we've talked about is just the fact that you can find the one for you.
Hmm.
Like no matter what your situation is, if you're just dating, if you've never been married, if you're divorced,
Yes.
or even if you're just looking to have your relationship renewed and becoming a new relationship, I think if you are introspective and you have a partner that is willing to do that work, you can have a new marriage, have a new relationship. But ultimately, my desire for myself and for all the people around me and everyone who has a desire to be in partnership is that they can figure out what is going to make them the most fulfilled in their relationship
Yes.
and find someone that is truly aligned with what your needs are. And so I appreciate Alex so much. We're gonna clap it up for Alex Smith, who is, like I said, the matchmaker at The Well Matched. You can follow him on social media. Tell us what your social medias are.
Is two. The first one is just well matched Alex. That was just my initial one that I updated. And then the main brand page is at the well matched on YouTube and Instagram, but mainly it's just on Instagram right now. I have some of my old one-on-ones on YouTube, so feel free to check those out. But, the best way to kind of see what I'm up to and what's next is through Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who's listening, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.